And
Yeah.
I've been noticing that fantasy alive in me more. And I'm using the word fantasy on purpose because it's so seductive. Like,
Yeah.
okay, Dave must have it figured out. Look, he's XYZ and I'm ABC. Dave's got it figured out. Then you go talk to Dave and Dave's like, fuck, man, I don't got it figured out. Like, right, where like so many of us, and maybe even the people who would say to you, yeah, I've got it figured out, if you look close enough, there might be ways in which they're blind to what they've
Yeah.
missed or they've set
Yeah.
aside. So I've just as of late been trying to shift that stance into like, I don't need to figure anything out. I need to figure myself in. I need to figure myself in, like, into this life that I'm in right here, right now.
Welcome to The Pivot, where we explore the shifts that open new possibilities for how we see, act, and navigate the world. Right now, so much is changing faster than we can make sense of. It's easy to feel unmoored, caught between an unraveling past and a future that's still, well, taking shape. But there are those who can already see what's emerging, beyond the noise, beyond the confusion. In each episode, I sit down with visionaries, thinkers, practitioners, and pioneers who are not just imagining the future, but actually living it. They're sensing what's next and mapping the way forward. So if you're wondering how to navigate this shifting landscape, how to stay grounded, adapt, and even thrive, you're in the right place. This is not about quick fixes or the 7 steps to be more effective. This is about asking the right questions of yourself, of each other, of life, learning how to make sense of this changing terrain and how to move in it. You don't have to figure it out alone. I've got you covered. This is The Pivot. Welcome.
Hi. Today I'm with Andy Cahill, a coach and facilitator I've wanted to have on for a while now. Good things are worth waiting for. This conversation felt like jazz. We started riffing. There was no outline, just the two of us following what was alive between us, what was emerging. And it went places, of course, we didn't expect. We got into the fantasy that someone out there has life figured out, why some of us are drawn to crisis and quests. And a phrase Andy used partway through that I still am hanging out with, figuring yourself in. If you've ever chased the next framework, the next teacher, the next breakthrough, hoping it would finally make everything make sense, this one's for you. Here's my conversation with Andy. Hi, Andy. It's good to see you.
You too, Dave. It's good to be back with you.
Yeah, it's great. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, actually.
Yeah, longer than we planned. Thank you for dad joke incoming, but thank you for pivoting on our original appearance on the pivot. Yeah, that we
Excellent.
finally make this land. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. And dad pivots, man, there's no shortage of them, is there? Well, how about I turn it over to you and you do a little introduction, what you'd like us to know. And then, as people who, if someone has not followed this show before, I akin it to playing jazz together. Let's see what emerges. We have an overarching connection of interest that fully support each of our work. So we'll just go where it goes.
Yeah, I promise I didn't plan this, but all of the words I could share all start with P. So at the risk of being like too cute,
that's cool,
or too neat, I'll just name like the parts of me that feel relevant to our conversation. So there's philosopher Andy. Like, I was a philosophy major as an undergraduate, or an unemployment major, as my accounting mother liked to say.
Doesn't start with a P.
That's right. That one doesn't, which is why, we'll leave that one aside. There's practitioner Andy, so kind of coach, facilitator, that space. And there's podcaster Andy. So I also host a podcast called The Wonder Dome. It's kind of how we found each other. There's a lot of nice Venn diagram overlap there. There's parent Andy. I have 3 young kids. There's placemaker Andy, who this is the new edge of like what does it mean to actually live in a place, to cultivate place, to be people in a specific location on this planet and this time, and how do we relate to that? And then there's just person Andy. Like there's this middle-aged dude who in some ways I feel as strong and as competent and as smart as I maybe will ever be. And in other ways, I feel like, I've just made so many fucking mistakes and have so many failures behind me and so many ways that I could kind of look back and go, wow, I really screwed that one up. So, just, yeah, kind of coming in, maybe that's the kind of the soil for this conversation is just, there's a lot of expertise and points of view and opinions I can bring in, and I can say a lot about a lot of things, but I really want to just let the person Andy be here and invite the person Dave to be here and kind of honor that life is full and surprising and oftentimes hard and complicated and also wildly beautiful and joyful. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
That's great. That's the juiciest introduction I think I've ever heard, because there's so much, right? So many layers.
Mm.
And yeah, the person, the last one, fertile ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the tensions or polarities that kind of almost showed up in all of them, or many of them at least. And that is what's making it juicy, isn't it? I almost on a daily basis am surprised at that interplay between feeling incredibly incompetent and then at this, like moments later, tapping into almost like with wonder, like, wow, this has been a wild ride. I've actually done a lot, or I know stuff. I now have opinions, which was, kind of drummed out of me as a coach, the neutrality. But that richness, that interplay feels not just like a human phenomena, it feels potent, something important.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a part of me who still feels like there's somewhere out there must be somebody who's got it all figured out. Like I still live inside that fantasy sometimes of like, okay, I could just figure this out. Someone's got it figured out. Who's got it figured out? Okay, if we could just figure it out, we'll be good. And I've been noticing that fantasy alive in me more. And I'm using the word fantasy on purpose because it's so seductive. Like, okay, Dave must have it figured out. Look, he's XYZ and I'm ABC. Dave's got it figured out. Then you go talk to Dave and Dave's like, fuck, man, I don't got it figured out. Like, right? We're like so many of us, and maybe even the people who would say to you, yeah, I've got it figured out. If you look close enough, there might be ways in which they're blind to what they've missed or they've set aside, so I've just as of late been trying to shift that stance into like, I don't need to figure anything out. I need to figure myself in. I need to figure myself in, like into this life that I'm in right here, right now, with these people that I love that sometimes drive me nuts, who I sometimes drive nuts, with these collaborators who blow me away with their skill and brilliance, who are also struggling and suffering with whatever happened, a lot, loss of a loved one, financial challenges, like whatever it is. All of us are carrying these different burdens and challenges. And just trying to figure myself into that. And so since I'm figuring it all out, so that feels like the person project here is like, okay, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be here right now, July 14th, 2026, on this planet hurtling through space?
I love the figuring in. That's awesome. It's very potent, isn't it? And again, that maybe I'm looking for them, I don't know, but I feel the tensions or the polarities of what you were talking about, the fantasy, the search for the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
the endless thirst for, if I only do X, you know, I'll be enlightened. I'll be whole. I'll be complete. I'll be happy. And yet there's something in the quest that's really cool. Like that's the
Yeah.
adventure, the
Yeah.
hero's journey, there's something that we're wired for in this. So, I've gone in multiple directions. I became very dogmatic about self-development, and you go and you do the long night of the soul. You do,
Mhm.
these heroic moves and climb the mountains. And I guess there's something to that for sure. But in service of what? And you're right, that part of me that feels inadequate, not whole, not worthy, not lovable, that gets intertwined, doesn't it? It gets messy.
Gets can get so messy. And even the mess, it's like, okay, how does this figure in? How
Yeah.
does this
Yeah.
mess of my desire to be loved, to have never made a mistake, how does this mess of my anger and frustration at that person or how that thing went, how does that figure in? How do I let that in? I,
Yes.
I just finished I finished rereading this wonderful series from my childhood. And you made me think of it because you said the Holy Grail. And it's such an archetypal, like there is something about the quest and the artifact that is
Yeah.
so potent. Well, the series is the Dark is Rising series by Susan Cooper, written in the like 60s, I think. It lives in the genre of, Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings. Like it's a fantasy, maybe closer to Narnia. It's like set in our world, but in a context where the Arthurian myth is actually real. And so the first book
Mm.
is about three kids who kind of find the Holy Grail, literally go on a quest in Cornwall in England with their
Hmm.
great uncle Mary, who you read between the lines is clearly Merlin. And spoiler alert, sorry folks if you haven't read this, these books have been out for like, I don't know, 80 years, so like you go read them, but like you get to the end of this series and there's this beautiful moment actually where the quest is complete and the all of the pain and the loss and the struggle and the maturation that happens because the characters is written for kind of a young audience, so the central characters are all kids, which is delightful, right? It's like watching like The Goonies or
Yes.
Stand By Me, these really
Right.
like,
Coming
beautiful,
of
well,
age.
coming
Yeah.
of age, same kind of deal, but written against the backdrop of kind of mythic England and Wales. So just really, really worth a read. But at the end, it's like, okay, we've stopped the dark from rising. And our role, there's certain characters who are like part of the light and the dark. So there's this strong, good, evil. But beautifully, what I love that the author doesn't do, Susan Cooper, just masterful, says, okay, and now that quest is done, we leave it to you, humanity. You kids are going to be the ones who grow up in this world. And you as humans are the ones now who own, do you cause suffering for each other or do you help each other? That's what we leave you with. You no longer have to worry about this great evil rising, this dark evil that wants to consume it all, the void. Now you just have to live with your own mess, basically, and we can't help you anymore. Right? It's just this wonderful. And so to reread that at this age in my life, it's just like, oh
Yes.
my God. Yeah, I can't. I don't know. I don't think I got that as a kid. As a kid, it was just about, yeah, the quest, the light is won. But now it's like, okay, the light is won. Now what? This
Now
beautiful
what?
now what moment, right? So we go on these beautiful, and I love these if we want to use the language of quest, I love a personal quest, a deep dive, apprenticeship with a master teacher, walkabout through the wilderness. At some point, that quest, that journey comes to its natural completion or its forced completion because something else interrupts it. Now what? Now you're still here, you're still in your body, you're still on this planet. Now what? And that moment is the moment that the hero's journey stories like all end right before.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So just this like, actually, can
Spot
we all
on.
be in the now what moment? Because we're all in it.
That's right. And the now what? As you were bringing that alive, one thing that occurred to me is something you said, one of your other P's around place. And maybe this is the string, I don't know. But what I've noticed in the hero's journey, the quest, the solo ones at least, what seems to follow the now what, maybe partially, maybe complete, I don't know, is no longer doing this alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Mm-hmm.
relational space.
Mm-hmm.
It's the, what's happening between you and I right now and this space. We talk about flow. We talk about generative. That seems to be part of the now what that I've noticed in my own quest. How about for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't go it alone. Absolutely. What I feel called to add to that is the tension between choosing who you go it with, right? So, what a gift to, for instance, make a great friend who maybe becomes a friend for life. Like right now, you and I are vibing, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk again, maybe we won't. So all we have right now is each other in this moment. Great, let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But if we were in relationship, podcasts would end and we'd see each other for, coffee tomorrow. Like now what?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing together? And so
Yes.
you want to find people who are kindred, who you feel safe with, who you feel alive with, who uplift you, who challenge you. And I kind of can sense how, even though we live across the ocean from each other, like, oh, here, Dave could be one of those people for me. But we live across the ocean from each other. So I can't just magically make you appear next to me, Dave, right? We have this technology. It's pretty cool. Might stop working one day, or, you might decide you don't want to host a podcast anymore and disappear into the woods. And so there's a world where we never see each other again, right?
Mm.
There are the people in my life who I can't really choose.
Mm.
Family,
Mm.
neighbors. I could, if I wanted to, I could try and run away from them. But actually, and so many men make this choice to run away from the responsibilities of parenting and family. They hide in their job, they hide in their profession. And I get it. I'm like, oh yeah, I can feel the parts of me who want to just is it Monday yet?
Yeah.
you know,
Or is it bedtime yet?
Is it bedtime yet? Can everyone just please go to sleep? Like, oh my God. Right. So I get I don't want to demonize the desire to escape, but
Yes.
part of the now what I'm trying to get to is you go on this quest, so to speak, and you return with something. Maybe you went on a meditation retreat for a week and you have this practice now to slow down your breathing, to pay attention to your breathing, to notice your thought patterns more. And it might be natural to say Dave, I want to teach you this thing I just learned. And if you learn it, then you'll be like me. And then we can, and Dave might be like, I'm not interested in that. I got bills to pay. I got to go, I got to go cut down the tree that's going to fall in our house if I don't take care of that right now. I got stuff to do and I am who I am, and stop trying to change me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the biggest traps that questers like us get into is we go and on this quote unquote hero's journey, we find the quote unquote magical artifact, the meditation, the spiritual philosophy, the amazing book, the incredible teacher, and we want to share it. It's a beautiful desire to share it. But hidden in that desire to share it is a desire to change the other person.
Yes.
To make them be someone other than who they are so that you can be more comfortable, so that you can have more of what you had when you were on the quest.
Yes.
Right. But actually, life is maybe asking us to just say, okay, now who are you now? Right now, who are they? What's most needed right now? It's just how do you just be the person that you are and let them be the person that they are, and be together with each other, even if it's not the relationship you would choose for yourself? How do you really show up without trying to fix or solve or change that person? Right. And this could be your partner, your wife, or your husband. This could be your children. This could be a neighbor. These are the people that are part of where we live. They're part of that place. So if you're always the person who's escaping on a quest, then what are you contributing to the place that you live in? how are you contributing? What does that mean? So that feels really important, is this, the questers can lionize the quest and vilify the mundane, the everyday, but the everyday is where life happens.
Absolutely. I think there are two super important elements that I can hear in this. The seduction of the quest, I know well.
Yes.
One of the hardest feedback sessions I ever received as a young manager was my recognition that I was creating quest. I would say it a different way. I was creating crisis. I loved working, leading a team in crisis. When we were responsible for something really important, for people, for security, safety, we had a clear mission. It brought us together. It bonded us. There was the thrill, the heroism, the exhilaration of flow, and the thinking is crystal. Like you're firing on all cylinders, and even your family supports it because they know it's important. So like there's this thing that's happening, and I realized that I was unconsciously creating crisis and urgency to be able to lead, because that was my sweet zone, right? That's when the Porsche drops a little bit, when it's starting to hit about 120 miles an hour. It's not clunky anymore. It's flowing. Yeah. That was a tough learning. And I'm bringing it in because I think there is a seductive siren call to the quest, right? That takes awareness. But you said something super cool, and that is always bringing something back, the artifact of coming back, the change that's coming back. So that's one element that I'm really interested in, is not vilifying quests, but understanding the dynamics of it and potentially even the shadow aspects of it.
Yes.
The other thing that you brought in is the change agenda. I want to change you. And I want to change you to be comfortable. The cover story is, I want to change you because it'll help you. It's your benefit. And that can be very earnest. I don't want to undersell that, because I know that in me. But also so I can connect. So I feel sameness.
Yes.
That's even deeper than connection, right? It's sameness.
Yeah.
And dropping the change agenda is huge. I found it revolutionized my stance as a coach, because I did have a change agenda for my clients. And I felt that I was responsible for their closing their gap, achieving their goal, becoming more human, whatever that was. And there was an arrogance that was underneath that. And then it precluded openings and things that were beyond my capacity, right? So same thing in relationship, in marriage. So I think you touched a live wire that's so vibrant, is when we catch on to it and we can drop it. That's really quite something.
Yeah. Pause for 1 second.
We'll hit a pause. Sure.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. That was delightful. My daughter loves to play dress up and wanted to show me her current costume of the moment, the costume du jour.
Very important.
Right. And here's one of those just great. It's happening, right? Like my neighbor's outside cutting down a tree. I said to you before we started recording, my daughter wants to play. I'm also here with you. And it requires these trade-offs. If I made my daughter a problem, which, I've done before, like, oh, leave me alone, I'm working, right? Like,
right.
Well, what? Like, what was the point of any of the quest? What did I bring back other than this sense that you're supposed to see how heroic I am now? Because look at all the cool stuff I've done, right? Like what I'm doing now is more important than what you're doing. And you should understand that, because look at this big quest I went on, So just don't bother me when I'm working, right? And it's like, of course, I want to set boundaries and help her see that there are times when I can't appear for her in the way that she needs, and that sucks. But to not shame her for that is is the part of that project of the parenting piece of this Venn diagram I'm living in. right? And so when you think about the quest, like, go on the quest. If you have an opportunity, go on the quest. Go study with that teacher. Go into the mountains. But what is it that you're actually bringing back? That's the question you have to ask. What have I actually brought back? And part of what you're bringing back, this gets at your sameness comment, is you're bringing back a heightened difference. You're now more different than you were before you went on that quest. And the challenge is not, can you make everyone around you more like you? Because actually, the only way they'd even get close, anything approximating that, is if they had gone on the quest with you. And they'd still get their own outcome from that. They wouldn't be just like it, but at least you'd have that shared experience. So the challenge is, how do I bring my new self back into this context? How do I figure myself in now that I've got this new learning? And that's the actual artifact, is the you. You've brought a new you back. And that new you has to find a way to live in the reality that you left. And that's fucking hard. It's really hard.
It is.
You know, that's part of this. So this change agenda that we have for other people is often, maybe not always, like you said, it can be very well intentioned. You see someone suffering, you want to help them. I mean, I have someone very close to me who suffers from deep depression, and I remember saying to them, like, I'm here to help. I want to help you. Can we do X, Y, and Z? And they just looked me in the eyes with the saddest look on their face, and they just said, I'm not ready. And I had to just be like, yeah, okay, I accept that, right? Because my change is yeah.
That's the highest form of help right there.
Mm-hmm.
What did they
Even
need?
though it
They
killed
needed
me
the space
to not be able to help
Yes.
them, right? But so this change agenda actually is like, okay, I've changed. How do I stay in relation? How do I stay in life? Actually, so dropping the change agenda for anyone else allows you to really get in touch with what is it in you that's already changed that you need to figure into this new life. That sort of feels like that's the real artifact you've brought back from the quest.
I think that's right. And, you know, an artifact, like that word brings up an image of carrying something back. And what this points to is something you said, you know, it's damn hard coming back. And that's where the integration comes in. And I know both in some of my personal quest, and then in some of my client work where we work with peak states, psychedelics, non-ordinary states. It's not the experience itself that's critical. It's the integration afterwards that's critical.
Yeah.
So I think we could extrapolate that out from a peak state experience to what we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you even just integrate, like, here's an example. It was a peak experience, but not like psychedelic level or sort of, you know, full on all the way. I had an opportunity to deliver a talk in front of 700 people, and it was really intense and thrilling, and it went really well, and so great. And then I got on a plane and flew back home and like landed in my family system. None of them were with me in that. None of them gave a shit whether the talk went well. Like, they just, okay, dada's home. And then that night, my son gets sick and he's got like a stomach bug. So he's like throwing up. So I'm just like, God, okay, don't throw up on the bed. Like, I'm trying to like literally catch the vomit coming from his mouth. Right. I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm just like feeling like, I want to go back to the stage. I don't want to be here. Like, why am I? But then I was like, breathe. It's just like right here, right now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I've got some work to do to integrate this peak experience. What does that mean for me right here, right now? I have to be as present with my son who's suffering as I was with that group of 700 people when I'm on the stage performing. It's like the quality of presence, of full presence. That was what, to the extent the talk was successful, that was the difference that made the difference. Well, it turns out, to the extent that I can support my son in his suffering, the difference that makes a difference is presence. So it's like, can I integrate that and bring it in? And I don't need like you to shoot me to the moon with like, you know, an MDA psilocybin cocktail or ayahuasca or whatever. Like, just need to be with my son. And it's actually really hard because I'm tired and I want to sleep and I don't want to catch vomit in my hands. But all right, okay, I can do this.
And it sounded like you didn't exclude anything. Everything was included. the full catastrophe.
Yes.
Andy, what do you think, if we broke this down, because for me, that's representative of so much of our life and our clients' life. This is why we get caught up, over-identified at work, why we'd rather be at work or at the gym or out with buddies. What was there a turning point or a capacity or a capability that you started accessing that in that moment, dripping in vomit, you were able to tap into that?
Mm. Hmm. Let me just sit with that for a minute.
Yeah, take your time.
What's coming up now, and it's probably not the only answer to this question, but it's the answer that's coming now, actually extends back to the blessing I had as a young person to, I'm an only child, so I spent a lot of time on my own. I spent a lot of time reading books. In retrospect, some of them are really, trashy, pulpy, whatever. Some of them were high art. I didn't know the damn difference when I was a kid. I just read what was in front of me. But that carried me through into college when I discovered philosophy. I was like, oh, I didn't even like, there's a whole layer of reality of people over the course of human history who have sat with the questions of like, what does it mean to be a person? Where did we come from? What is this all about? Does any of this even matter? And there are a wild, beautiful diversity of answers to those questions. So I'm always a little leery of someone who has the answer, because the answer is inevitably it's reductive.
Right.
And there are many answers, but I will say, having been exposed to this diversity of philosophies and the beauty of human civilization history, but also the like brutality of it, it is, we could even just right here in this moment, right here, somewhere on earth, it is fucking heaven on earth. It's heaven. Someone is in heaven right now. They're as blissed out as a person could possibly be. Maybe they're by themselves, maybe they're with a group, maybe they're in nature. And also somewhere on earth right now, it is hell on earth. It's hell. Like bombs, violence, brutality. It's, just even as I start to talk about it, I notice parts of me that want to retreat. It's so intense. Right. So life, kind of one way of framing is that life is just so much bigger than us. It doesn't really care one way or the other how you feel about catching the vomit in the middle of the night. You're there. You're there with the blessings and the burdens of being in that particular place and time. No one else is there but you. How are you going to be there? And so I think the kind of journey through the landscape of deep thinking and feeling that people had already done around these questions gave me the capacity to take perspective sometimes, not always successfully, but sometimes to just notice when I'm inside of a perspective, inside of an experience and lost in it, as opposed to being with it and living in it and embracing it and just walking through it as best as I'm able. So I think that's the answer, like to expose to deep philosophical lineages to help us see that we're not alone in these questions of like, does my life mean a damn thing? Right. That was pivotal for me as a young man.
And in listening, I can hear very specific capacities: curiosity, thirst, the hanging inside a question, not quick to answer. You ask good questions. So the craft of question. And, again, we're talking these contradictions, right? The most beautiful and the most deepest despair. So the not looking away, or maybe even not blinking. And then I could hear a generosity in the spirit of, I'm doing the best I can here. One day I get it, and the next day I'm a total blob. Like I'm consumed by the vomit. It's like I can't hold it together.
Yeah.
So there's again, contradictions, right? There's this unblinking strength and this, open hand, this gentle, loose grip
Mm,
that
mm,
is quite
mhm.
significant, I think. If we're talking about how to navigate, not survive, but actually enjoy the quest of life in these fast changing times, this feels key.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for. I feel really touched by what you've just shared back, and I love that you're like reminding me and us that like the quest, as opposed to the quests, all the little mini quests and side quests. Like this is it. If there is such a thing as a quest, like it starts the moment you're born and ends the moment you die, and everything in between is that quest. And maybe that's
Yeah.
even part of a much bigger tapestry of quests. No
Mm.
one really knows for sure what comes before you're born and what comes after you die. But some people have some deep views around that are interesting and compelling. And yeah, I think this like kind of the high life is high contrast, relating to life. If you can hold high contrast, if you can relate to life in a high contrast way skillfully, that's really helpful. And you use like strength and gentleness. So
Yeah.
strength and gentleness, what a wonderful contrast. And if I'm all strength all the time, then I'm brute forcing everything. And sometimes the brute force will be precisely what's needed to move that
Yes.
rock, to
Yes.
stop, to defend that attack. Other times, the gentleness is what's needed. It's just like, buddy, I'm sorry you're sick. Like, I'm here for you. Even if I'm like, even if a
Yeah.
part of me doesn't want to, like, I'm here for you, buddy. And then you can kind of give yourself that own strength and gentleness. Be like, oh man, if this was my best friend with his son in the middle of the night and I could be there with him, I would just put my arm around and be like, and hey, buddy, I'm here with you too. Right. So it's like we're parenting. There's no one there in the middle of the night to parent us, but we can kind of, with perspective, be compassionate towards ourselves. It's that perspective move that philosophy gave me. Like, yeah. And hey, Andy, buddy, I know this is hard, but I'm here with you too. And that's gentle. And then you can blend those two. You can take any contrast and start to blend, right? And if we use like martial arts as an example, there's hard
Aikido.
martial arts
Yeah.
and soft martial arts. And
Yeah.
then there's the in between of like, can you be so gentle and fluid that actually like nothing touches you? And it's like, whoa. Or can you be so hard and strong that everything that touches you just bounces off? Can you find the blend of the hard and the soft in any moment? It's that kind of adaptiveness, that kind of fluidity that marries contrast as opposed to like going all in on one way of being and forcing it and holding, clinging to it and pushing others to follow you in it. It's like, there's some this integrative way of being. You've integrated the strength and the gentleness. Yeah. So at my best, I feel like those live fully
Mm.
side by side. And when I'm not
Mm.
at my best, I can still be gentle with myself.
That's the key, man. That'll
Yeah.
keep you playing.
That'll keep you playing.
It you bring a smile to me because there's so much richness. There were like 5 different launch points I heard in that. There's so many layers. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so rich because you and I both share an interest in men's work and the
Yes.
struggle of, there's no real rite of passage in our culture today that declares you're a man. And, that being, even if I'm gentle with others and firm with others when appropriate, I'm always brutal with myself. Like that's the
Mm,
missing component for so many of us, not just men, but so many. And, you know, it, when you spoke of your strength and then your gentleness at the same time, I realized I need both from you in a relational space. Like if I'm going to follow you, if you're a leader, I need to see both, not just the strength.
mhm,
I need to see that vulnerability.
mhm,
If I'm going to trust you to do a quest together, to know that you'll have my back, but you'll also pick me up, when I'm a mess,
mhm,
and I'll be there for you.
mhm, mhm,
We actually need these seemingly contrast or, I have to do one but not the other, or one at the cost of the other. We both have used the word integration a couple of times. It's the bothness that's needed.
yeah. So well said. Sooner or later, you will not be able to keep going in whatever way you're going. Sooner or later. This comes back to the don't go it alone energy that you're tuning into.
Yeah.
And if you have people at your side who can hold contrast, who can challenge and love the challenge and bring on the challenge and bring out the you that's capable of meeting the challenge. God, and it feels so good. It's like such a stoke when you do something that you didn't know your body was capable of doing. Like, I'm stronger than I thought. I'm more flexible than I'm faster than I thought. I'm tougher than I thought. Wow. So you have someone with you, a leader or a teammate who challenges you to bring out your deeper strength. Beautiful. And then at the same time, at some point, you just can't keep going. You just like your legs are done. You have to sit and rest. And can that same person and realize now is not the moment for more challenge. Now is the moment for like just companionship, for honoring, for letting you know, hey, I'm going to go on ahead, but I'll circle back to make sure you're okay. Like that is those are the kinds of people you want to walk with. And if you are that for somebody else, right? If you've done all these quests and you can bring back that energy of like, I've got all this capability, all these things I can share when it feels right. Let's play, but also like I'm here for you as you are right now. Here's how I can be here for you. That's like, I want that for me, for my kids, for my partner, for you, for everyone on this planet. It's like, can we be that for each other? And it turns out, yeah, sometimes we can.
Yeah.
It's really great when we can.
Yeah. Yeah. I can hear how this has served you and supported you. How about in your work? Like if we were to operationalize some of these concepts that we've been playing with and moved it into, like if someone's listening to this and their head is nodding, they're going, yeah, I get that. Those are important things, but I don't know what to do. How would I build that capacity or start even like it's invisible to me? It's almost like, putting on night vision goggles. How do I illuminate that?
Mm-hmm.
What are you finding? In your work?
Another thing, there's two layers I could talk to that. We could talk about that on. There's this specific practitioner layer, like as a coach, facilitator. What does that look like? I could share some thoughts around that. But there's just more the like person layer. What might a person from any walk of life, how might they start to find a way into this? Which layer feels juicier for you to rest?
I'd almost go from the ground up. I think we've been talking about the phenomena of the human experiment. So maybe that's a place to go.
Yeah. Yeah. The word that's coming in fastest, so maybe is not the only word we could look more closely, but it's the word reflection. And in this case, reflection, literally means like a mirror, like looking in the mirror. But it means a bit more metaphorically, like just taking time to notice where you've been and where you are now. Lots of people have never been introduced to that practice. They don't know how to engage with that practice. They find that practice boring. They don't even know it's a possibility. Like there's lots of relationships to the idea of reflection that basically lead to people not reflecting. But if I could like, to the extent I'm able to give now, like, okay, I've been on this quest, what do I want to share is kind of the question you're asking, would be find contexts where you can reflect on what just happened to you and what it means to you. Whatever that it is, like you just got a big promotion or you just got fired or, you just moved to a new city or your partner just like cold shouldered you when you were trying to connect with them, or like just pick anything, big or small, recent or distant, and sit with it a bit. Look at it. Notice how it feels to be in the presence of whatever the it is, the experience, the memory, and journal about it, meditate on it, go for a walk and think more about it. Whatever conclusions you come to may be provisional or partial or even wildly off base, but at the moment, it's the best you're going to get in terms of understanding how does this experience that I've had fit into my life? How does it fit? What does it mean? What does it have to teach me? And that is, whenever I'm able to reflect on anything, it always opens up in surprising ways. Always, always get more out of it than I expected. And here's a concrete example. I want to see how much I want to like share about this because it's pretty personal, but it does come from the personal layer as opposed to the practitioner layer. Yeah, basically there was a night recently. So parenting is coming up, and I want to honor lots of people aren't parents, and that's cool. Like I don't feel like parenting is one pathway of many. So if you're not a parent and you're hearing this, like honored and see if there's a version that works for you. But here's one that works for me because it was so strong. So that's one of the gifts of parenting is kids give you like really strong ass experiences to learn from or not, right? So
very true.
So basically, the long story short is my daughter was having a hard time sleeping, and I just was in the like, you just got to go to bed energy. And so I wasn't being gentle with her. I was being strong with her, and what she needed was gentleness. Ultimately, she ended up with her mom, who gave her the gentleness she needed. Because I was just like, I want to go to bed. Stop, you're fine. Pull it together. Go to bed. Right? Like that energy was coming through me. So it wasn't fit for purpose in the moment. I wasn't being a good companion in that moment. So I brought that to my therapist. And so what is therapy? Is a place to reflect. Hey, this thing happened. Like, why did I do that? I didn't want to do that. Why was I so angry at my daughter? Like, why? And through an hour-long process with my therapist, I was able to understand that actually the reason I had done that to my daughter was connected to anger I had towards my dad, and actually my granddad, and even my great-granddad. Because, and my dad is the quote-unquote best of the three, but if you kind of keep going back down the lineage, you have all these examples of men absencing themselves from the lives of their family. So that absence, like a part of me was like, I want to be able to absent myself.
Yes.
I'm angry because I can't absent myself right now, and they got to. So I'm it's like a jealous anger, but then I kept working with it, and I had another anger. I'm angry that you weren't here for me, or you weren't here for my dad, or you weren't here for your family the way that I'm here for my family. So I'm like, there's like an ethical anger, like why can't you be here for me, be here for your family the way I am? But there's also a jealous anger. Why did you get to escape and I don't get to escape? And so being able to notice those angers, to understand where they were coming from, to feel them in my body, and I can feel them a bit now. I can feel each anger has like a place in my body, and if I wanted to like
right now,
get more anger, I could like tune in. I could let it express. Oh, it's like wow, and none of that was meant for my daughter. None of it. So the power of reflection, to take an experience, to look at it, to understand what sourced it, and to fit it into a context that makes sense. Because otherwise we're just having experience after experience, emotion after emotion. There's no perspective on it. There's no understanding of it. We just are just like, it's like the emotions are just like swinging us around like a whip, like a rope. And we're at the very end of the rope, just like flying through. And it's like, no, actually you can hold the rope.
Yeah. Thank you. No, that's excellent. And I'm really struck by, we use a simple word of reflection, and yet there's a universe in there, right? So there's a lot of actually happening. And you've modeled one of the capacities in this discussion of taking different perspectives. And that's one of them, right? Is that observer ability, observing inside all the different parts, all the different dynamics. And you said early on, it's hard for a lot of people to be able to do this. This isn't something that we're taught necessarily.
Yes. You've
bridged from concept to behavior in doing this beautifully. When you were speaking about how subtle it can be, I've gone on hikes where I didn't realize how far I'd climbed until I stopped and looked back. It was the looking back that told me, I did something here. Not looking forward and not looking down. So there's a perspective, there's a shift, there's a pause. Something you were doing and doing real time is pausing to be able to look in, not just after action reports, not just looking back, but even in the moment pausing. It seems to be another capability here.
Yeah, it's like the micro reflection, the micro pause, right?
Right.
We're all going to do a lot more hiking than we are going to be taking in the view, right?
Yeah.
You get up to the top of that mountain, you hang out there I actually had a friend who got stuck on a mountain and had to like sleep overnight. The view goes away. It gets dark and scary and fucking cold.
That's right.
Right? Like you got to keep walking.
That's right.
But if you don't stop to understand the path you're on and see the view and see how far if you never stop, then but go ahead. You're going to say, or.
That's right. Well, now, or you're going to go and climb the next mountain.
Yeah.
So that's what I see in a lot of my clients is, I got that one, check, ça c'est fait, and then move on. And that's another issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can kind of do macro, like deep reflection around a big issue with your therapist, with your coach, with an annual journaling. There's all this cool, but there's also these just micro moments where you go like, wait, where am I right now?
Yeah,
like Robert Pirsig, the author of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, is something like, wherever you are, you should find yourself there immediately. Something like that. It's like, great. Where am I right now? Actually, like, I'm in this fantasy where Dave's an asshole because he said this thing at this meeting, and then I'm just like, I'm not even here in my bio. Huh? Well, that's interesting. Why is it? What did Dave actually say? Why did that piss me off so much? Because it reminded me of something that my dad said. Just as an example. I'm annoyed right now because I'm angry about something from my childhood. Yeah. Like, it doesn't have to be the hour. It can just be like, wow, I'm acting this way because actually I'm really sad right now.
Well, and that's really potent inside a relationship, because you may be going, Dave, what an asshole, because of something that I did a while ago that you've made up a story about. Then I'm reacting to you reacting to my being an asshole. So then I'm making up something. So we're no longer even present with each other. We're working with our figment mirages of each other.
Right. Which is likely probably amplifying the very dynamics that are causing us.
And validating for future relationship problems.
Dave, look the way he is an asshole. Look at that.
Right.
But you could take any experience, really any experience, and it could be really tender and deep and hard, or it could be really little and small. But the more time you spend with it, okay, where am I right now? Oh, I'm here. What is it? How did I get here? Okay, the more time you spend with it, the more that inner universe can unfold for you. And you don't need infinity, again, because now you're chasing the next bliss. You're chasing I could just reflect my way to enlightenment. It's like, no, just maybe if you want, but like,
if you want to zen
what you just
out,
need is a little bit of noticing, so that you have a bit more choice, a bit more perspective, a bit more compassion for yourself or the person across from you. Now you're in the game again, like you said earlier. Now you can keep playing, right? Like that. That's what I want for myself, and what I want for the people around me, is that capacity to keep playing. And reflection is such a powerful, like, everyday practice that you can do in little ways and big ways with the help of others, on your own. But just like, some way to reflect and make meaning as you move along the trail.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. This is coming up because I've been writing lately about orienting and reorienting. And like, what does that really mean to orient myself? Where am I? Like you were saying, and not to ask it just once, right? So if we go, okay, we're going to go over here, we're going to go over there. We're going to be needing to reorient all the time because of fast change, changing conditions, getting lost, a mistake, the light changing. The art of reorienting. Again, these words are so common that I think we gloss over the deeper meaning and the deeper opportunity of what can happen.
We've somehow tuned into the metaphors of landscape, mountains, and terrain, and orienteering, and right. But those are helpful because that's all of our ancestors evolved in that context. Like, wind the clock back far enough, and you don't have to wind it very far. And there's no boxy rooms, and there's no climate control, and there's no, the light came from the sun and the moon and the stars and fire, right? And food came from the soil, from plants, from animals. lived or died by our capacity to orient, to notice where are we in the environment, what are the opportunities, what are the prospects, what are the vantage points where we can see the distant horizon. And by the way, there's a lot of research that shows that here's another everyday practice. Find somewhere where you can stand on a literal horizon and see into the distance. Also naturally reflective, right? Like you find these horizon points, but also the danger points, the threats, right? Like this is actually what we're evolved to do, is to navigate the planetary landscape.
That's right.
That's what we're bringing into our own inner landscape, to our relational landscape, to our organizational landscape, is this capacity to navigate, to wayfind, to orient, and to bring others along who might feel lost, and to have others who can bring you along when you feel lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So we fell into this metaphor of like landscape, navigating the landscape. Right. And I don't think that's by accident. Like we've got mountains and pathways, and you've used orienteering and different light of day. Well, evolution, like from an evolution perspective, that's what most of our human ancestors lived in. Like they didn't live in boxy rooms with flat screens and artificial light and artificial air. They lived in the world. They built different kinds of shelters, but they also moved and navigated. And so on it, like if we use the evolutionary lens, that perspective, then we are just intimately equipped for navigating complex environments and tracking for opportunity, for safety, for vantage points where we can see further, for threats, for food. Like this is what we're wired to do. And it turns out, maybe just by like a happy accident of evolution, that as far as I can tell, there may be examples we're not aware of, but we seem to be the only creature who can also take that skill set of what you called orienteering and turn it towards the inner landscape of our emotions and our sensations and what we can learn from our own biography and our ancestry and the journey that we've been on. So this kind of orienteering metaphor that we've fallen into, I think, is very relevant. What does it mean to be a person? Well, part of it is the capacity to navigate environments. And that includes navigating the inner environment of the human psyche, of the interpersonal cultural spaces that we inhabit, the organizational environment we might be in, the family system we're in. And if you lose that ability to navigate, which includes that reflective capacity we spoke about, you're in trouble. Unless you have someone who's there who's got your back, right?
Yes. Beautiful. So, we've talked about the orientation, the sense making, the ability to move, the need for not doing this alone. And all of this almost takes us full circle to what you said in the very beginning, the going in and not going out. And maybe that is a unique aspect of this human experiment that's so fantastic. The idea of, and maybe this is another way of saying how relevant this is today, because you and I were talking before we started, I often use the old maps don't work anymore. Our success formulas are incomplete. They're good for best practices and wisdom, but we have to make room for the new, the emergent, the imaginal. And that ability to move and flex, this is a shift in the navigator, not the maps. It's the inner shift that's so important. And I think we've lost touch with how to do that over time, as we become more living in boxes and looking outward and losing that ability to inherently adapt. How do I shift? How do I all of a sudden notice the leaves turning before it rains, or how to make sense of things that I was able to make sense of before.
Yeah. And also, if you didn't notice that stuff, how do you be more okay when you get rained on?
Right.
How do you be more okay when you realize you're lost or you've gone the wrong way?
That's right. We didn't turn it into a catastrophe back then, did we?
Yeah. Like people figured out how to build shelters because it's not always fun to get rained on, especially if it's cold. But also, we have the capacity to endure a wide variety of environmental challenges and survive. So there's something about like that. You and I are here. Everyone who hears this is here because people who came before them survived. And there's lots of ways to survive. But the way that we're talking about that feels really potent and under accessed by a lot of people is this capacity to be right where you are with whatever you've got. Maybe you have all the best maps and all the best gear, or maybe you have none of it, but to be right where you are and be more open to what's happening, more adaptable, more able to pivot and move, and to learn from past experience as you go. So that the next time it rains, you're like, oh, I know how to build a shelter now. I still don't know how to, I didn't know the rain was coming, but it's coming down. Got it. I'm good. Or, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to get wet and I'm going to love it. Okay. I'm just, like, you have all these
there's
choices.
a new way. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I like that. Andy, how is, what we've been talking about for a while here, how is it informing not only your life, you shared some of that, but your work, what you're up to, what you're exploring these days?
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, again, what comes to mind is another story. I was just very recently, I think about 2 weeks ago now, leading a group of people who were navigating a pretty big organizational transition. And I had been brought in as a facilitator, as a substitute facilitator, because the person who was supposed to facilitate couldn't be there. And for a variety of reasons, everyone thought going into this that it was going to be a pretty straightforward, like, here's a framework, here's how you can, let me teach you the framework, you apply it and make sense of it. And so I kind of entered in with my kind of teacher facilitator hat. It became apparent within the first hour that the plan for the 2 days was not the plan that this group needed. And that became apparent because a few people said to me, like, hey, I'm trying to do this exercise, but I don't have the information I need to do the exercise because the X, Y, and Z didn't happen before we got here. And so I was sort of in real time, I was discovering that I wasn't where I thought I was. I thought I was here to teach a framework that they could apply. Where I am actually is with a group that's confused, that's disoriented. And as we continue to unpack, that's angry, that's afraid. So I had to stay really nimble for the next day and a half. And I have a feeling some people at the end of that day and a half were still not happy. And maybe some of that happiness was directed towards me because I'm the one who was charged with leading them through a day and a half journey. So right there in that moment, what choice did I have? The parts of me that wanted it to go perfect had to relax. The parts of me that wanted to know where we were going to end on the next afternoon with the closing circle as I had planned it had to relax. Now I just had to be in the room with 30 people who were feeling a wide variety of emotions, experiences, opinions, and ideas. And I had to find ways to stay with them while also not losing myself. Right? So if you're a coach or a facilitator or a teacher or whatever, like, this is the real-time practice of you're in a room, you have a plan, the plan is not going to work. What then?
You throw out the map.
Yeah, the map's got to go out. Are you able to wayfind? It doesn't mean you're not going to get scratched and cut and get poison ivy to stick with the map. Like, it still might be a mess. But can you stay in it, stay in the navigation, the thorniness, the challenge, and find your way through towards a place where even if there's still lots of unresolved questions and challenges, the group can land again and feel a sense of coherence and a sense that they know what their next steps could be. And so that was a really potent, moment where, as I metabolized and digested that and did some reflection, I was like, wow, I would not have wished that upon anyone, because it was actually a really intense 2 days. But man, I'm so glad I got to do that. And I'm so glad that this and this, this practice and this meditation and internal family systems and my partner who I could call up, and I was like, all of these resources that I didn't know I was going to need, I could start to draw on and pull into the room as a facilitator. Right. And so that was a moment where I was able to integrate the strength, I can handle this, the self-compassion. It's okay. It's going to be messy. The gentleness. I can see you person are really angry and sad. Let me be with you. Like I could just was able to just bring it all in the room. At least it felt that way to me, as best as I was able. So I think that's one way it shows up in work is actually we as practitioners need to relate to the parts of us that want things to be perfect and planned and a smashing success and 100%, love on the evaluation and all the things that we know are going to get us more business later, all that other stuff. It's like, yes. And what do you do when none of that, what do you do when that all gets thrown out the window? So that's one thing that comes up for me.
Excellent. And you just, again, it was one hell of a quest.
It was one hell of a quest.
It was one hell of a quest. I mean, you had me, those that watch us on video can watch, those that listen to this can feel, but this was not something in the past. This was here now. And what you were going through here now. So that's another aspect of the quest.
Mm-hmm.
You brought something back and, you've changed me, you've changed us. That's quite potent.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Thanks for making space. I mean, what a gift, I almost feel like what's another way someone could practice, like, just have Dave host you on his podcast and you'll get some insights and you'll get to share some stuff. So yeah, I really feel touched by the way you're modeling your own journey and your invitation in, and appreciating you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I am touched. And isn't it wonderful to celebrate, like with fellow journeyers, we're in the same profession, but the joy of playing jazz like we're doing here, or the joy of surfing like you did with that group, the acts of surrender, letting go, throwing away, fresh starts. And, we survived this one to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it deepens, it deepens the entire field. It deepens our relationship. It deepens the exploration we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will go away and be writing differently next week, or talking to people differently, or working with my clients differently. You might as well. So the ripple is something that's not insignificant.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
I've really enjoyed sharing the path with you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to share for you, or what's next, or what's capturing the next? What would you like folks to know? And of course, we'll put things in the show notes and links and all of that.
Yeah.
But what would you?
Yeah, I will. One skill have not developed super well is like the online presence skill. So it's a bit all over the place, but probably the best place for folks to stay connected is on my podcast Substack page, which is the Wonder Dome.
Mm-hmm.
And that also has that's the place where I'm sharing announcements when they happen, programs that I'm running when they happen. That's probably the best one-stop shop is the Wonder Dome on Substack. I'm also on LinkedIn, which I feel mixed about, but anyways, I'm findable there on LinkedIn. Here's what I want to share is this. We didn't talk a lot about, but one of the P's is placemaking. I mean, I guess in some ways we talked about it in an interpersonal way, like what do you do when you come back from the quest and you're with your neighbor? I'm getting more and more excited about that as a practice. And so on my podcast, if people want to follow it, a lot of my conversations have been about the inner landscape, and you and I really just beautifully played in the inner landscape. I'm spending more time with people who, whether or not they have an inner practice, they've developed a really strong outer landscape practice of like architects, builders, designers, community activists, hosts, curators, people whose strengths express in the built world and making the built world more beautiful, or even just the world's nature, people who are protecting nature. Like, I'm really getting excited about that. It's like and I think the project that I'm living into is how do we walk with the inner and the outer and integrate them more so that people can live and be and inhabit places that are more conducive to the kinds of experiences you and I go out, and you and I as seekers and questers, we go out and find those places where we can have those experiences. But when you come home again, if home's a dump, if it's filled with trash, if it's designed poorly, it's harder to really be human and humane. So that's like, I would say my biggest curiosity right now is how to both ends. How do we look at the outer and the inner? How do we make places that hold space for both so that more of us can live a more humane, beautiful, safe life that allows for the kind of adventures and actualization that you and I love to groove on?
Good. Well, we'll make sure there's information in the show notes. And I'll just say, I mean, how I found you was through the Wonder Dome and was amazed. You also create quite an environment and space for people to really show up. And that was the major attractors. I'd like to do more about the place, that P in you. Would you like to come back and do another?
Yeah, thanks, mate. I would at some point. Yeah. Let's let that cook for a few months. Yeah. But yes, I think when the time's right, that would be, we could really riff on some really fun questions about that I've been learning about. And maybe a book recommendation for folks who like want to go straight to Alain de Botton, The Architecture of Happiness, is a wonderful recent-ish book by a philosopher who's thinking deeply about questions of environment and architecture.
Ooh, okay.
And a second book to recommend, and this is great, this one actually came to me from a coaching client. Usually we coaches are the ones recommending books, but a coaching client recommended this to me, and then a friend of mine also recommended it. I was like, okay, I got to check out this book, The Extended Mind by Annie Murphy Paul, I believe. She's a science journalist. She did a survey of the research around all of the ways in which our human minds extend into the environment. So all of this stuff around architecture, nature, bodies, relationships, all of it. There's some really cool research that pokes at the brain-based model of human intelligence, which is like we're a brain in a jar. It's like, no, we are just like, our intelligence is deeply interwoven with our environments. And so those are two books that have really lit me up and are kind of shaping some of my inquiries. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll put them in the show notes for sure. And yeah, come back when the time's right, because I'd like to harvest what you're exploring. I consider you, out at the edges. You're in the frontier, and you're doing some cutting edge stuff. And those of us that are working that way, we need to come back and connect and reflect, and then go back out again. And I would love to do that.
Great. Yeah, I noticed the part of me that hesitated was like, oh, I don't feel like I'm expert enough to talk about that. So that was so okay, good. Like maybe that's not what you're inviting me to. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I know that. I'm an old friend with that one.
Yeah. But I think that would be a very rich conversation. Yeah. So thank you for that. Let's hold that.
Andy, it's been a real pleasure, a real joy.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for who you're doing. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Yeah, right back at you. What a treat. Thanks for this time.
You bet. Take good care. Andy and I covered a lot of ground in this conversation. If there's one thread that stayed with me, it's this. I've spent much of my life believing that the next quest would somehow complete the last one. Another expedition, another teacher, another insight. What I'm continuing to see now is that the real challenge isn't finding the next mountain. It's not the next hero's journey. It's bringing what you've learned back into ordinary life, into your relationships, into your work, into Tuesday afternoon. That feels less dramatic and much harder. I'd love to know what stayed with you from this conversation. Leave a comment below. I read every one. Until next time, stay curious. Thank you for being here and for staying with what's unfolding. If this conversation opened something for you, I hope you'll carry it forward. And if someone comes to mind who might benefit, trust that and pass it along. If you'd like to continue the exploration, there's a link in the show notes to the Pivot Commons, a free space where these conversations can be explored more directly with others. A subscription, a review, a follow are always welcome. It's important because it helps others find their way here to this work. Until next time, Keep listening, keep feeling, keep exploring, and keep finding your way. This is Dave Schoaf at The Pivot, where we meet at the edges. Go well.